What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. So, two things happened yesterday I want to talk about. The first of which, Peetz came online and listen, he let reaction channels have it. The whole conversation started with how Peetz was going to spend the holidays, his relationship status, and I'm glad to hear that Peetz is going to go see his mother. Possibly his mother's going to make him some brownies. Hopefully, his mother remembers that Peetz doesn't like pie. Those are all things he talked about. But it's interesting that the moment they bring up Shantel and the reaction channels, knowing she's in Canada, Peetz says we should all F off. He, of course, goes on to say how desperate we are for content. And I know most of you right now are preparing to type that you can't get frustrated by this. You have to consider the source. And trust me, I do. We're going to have a very candid conversation on this one. Because it's interesting that he thinks we are the ones desperate to have something to talk about. Peetz, let's understand. Desperation starts with your former current best friend. She is the one that was so desperate to see what people might have been saying about her that she clicked a link and gave up her location. And no one agreed with that. No reaction channel took credit for that. That's something she did on her own. Just like the situation with Kai Bella. It's not that everyone came out and agreed with what took place, but we all discussed what took place. He tries to lump everything all together as if we're all having a hand in everything that happens. It's simply not true. And he tries to follow this up with, quote, we have nothing interesting on our own to talk about. Peetz, by all means, should you be the one giving this lecture to reaction channels? I mean, does it not dawn on you that people in your very own chat aren't exactly waiting for what you are interested in? They don't ask when the next Sailor Moon t-shirt haul is going to be or the next My Little Pony unboxing. And I'm not judging. I'm not judging. That's what you have shown a propensity to collect and enjoy. What your chat primarily does is sit there and try to pull any minute detail of Chantel's life out of you. So when you tell us that we have no unique thoughts, it's pretty clear you don't really know who you're speaking on. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm going to say in general, most reaction channels keep people entertained. And to be fair, the subject matter has been pretty bland. But that subject matter is also Chantel's life. It's what she puts on camera. I don't see any other reaction channels that are openly putting their life out there. And let's not pretend that Shantel was creating this riveting content. I mean, when she wanted to copyright her content, we all laughed. So when you sit there and tell us that we just make stuff up, let's not forget a majority of what Shantel spoke about has already been proven untrue. She said she didn't need to go back to Canada. She said she couldn't afford to go back to Canada. She said she physically couldn't go back to Canada, and then tried to package everything up, put a little bow of, well, I need a mental break. The reality is, and we all know it, as I'm sure you do, she was going back home the whole time. She knew the e-visa was going away, and she needed to protect herself in the event she can't get back to Kuwait, and the best way to do that is to go to a place familiar to her, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what's ironic is what you are doing. So to be clear, in Peetz's world, if a reaction channel says Shantel is going to be on a visa run for a month, that's us not having a life. That's us speculating, having nothing to speak about. But when Peetz sits there yesterday and says that Shantel might be gone for up to 3 months, which that's a number no one else had thrown around, that's something completely different. And beyond that, so much of this is just the classic Shantel rhetoric that we all need something to do. We all need to be constructive with our channels while Shantel is away. I'm going to level with you, Peetz. Many of us are doing something constructive with our channels. Many of us make a livable wage off our channels. We have found an audience that appreciates us, that watches our content. And as far as you speaking down to any of us, I'm going to say something to you, Peetz, that I am uniquely qualified to say to you. You admitted you couldn't get hired at a company I spent 15 years working for after submitting multiple applications. So, why exactly are you talking to any of us this way? Then you sit there and tell us that we have to have something. And of course, that we need to take a break to be with our family. Pete's, I'm going to be honest with you, and I know Shantel hates when I say that, so I know you will as well. I went back and I looked at some numbers because I don't want to do what you do. I don't want to sit there and just throw out concepts and not understand the actual logic behind it. So last week, you were live streaming for 15 hours. 90 minutes in addition to that, you spent playing video games. And look, I'm be the last one to push you away from playing games online. Do that to your heart's content. Keep after it. Hope it works out well for you. It changed my life. But the irony of you telling us that we should be spending time with our families because it's the holidays, the same way Chantal would, and almost assuming that we aren't spending time with our families, Pete, that's pretty bold. So again, I wanted to go to the next level with it, though. I didn't just want to make that statement because, that's a pretty large claim to make. That's a pretty derogatory claim to someone's person, right? That you would rather spend more time online talking about someone or doing something than being with your own family. Right? I would never make that type of claim without something to back it up. So I will offer to you this. During that same time, Peetz, Yaba was live around 9 hours. FFG was live around 5 hours. Tippy was online about 6.5 hours. Myself, I made around 2.5 hours of content. If you want to be incredibly forgiving and say that it took me twice the amount of time to create it than it did to upload it, that's what, 6 hours? If we double it and then some? So help me understand how the person that is spending more time online than any other one of his peers is making this erroneous claim about time management. He then proceeds to tell us that, all the time spent online is because our family hates us. So to be clear, Yaba streams 6 hours a week because her family must hate her. You can stream over 15 hours because you're prioritizing that time not being on YouTube to be with your family? Sometimes I think it bothers Chantal, but Peetz, to a degree, you understand, this is only part of our day for both reactors and viewers. It's no different than watching a TV show or a sport. Yes, for the window you're watching it, you should probably find entertainment, value, enjoy it, embrace it. But it's not overpowering your life to the point it consumes every passing hour, every thought. However, for Chantal, it is just that. For Peetz, it is still just that. You can literally play Final Fantasy for hours, Peetz. You can have 40 people watch it. You can start to talk about Chantal and reaction channels, and somehow that number multiplies itself by what? 10? It's that logic, Peetz, that makes us all know you would dig right into that bank account if Chantal even so much thought about asking you. And he starts this whole Chantal is where she says she is. Then they tell him about the email, and he gets very frustrated because at this point he knows the gig is up. He then tries to say she is in Kuwait in the least confident way possible. Here's the thing. For a while, I know certain people felt almost sorry for Peetz in a way. Forever, Chantal's human doormat. But at this point, he's proven this is what he wants. he allows her to walk over him, and time again, we've seen the moment she finds someone else, be it her ex, be it Slaw, she runs as far and as fast, the only time she does those things, away from him as possible. It's no longer sad. It's no longer pathetic. It's what he deserves. Now, 11 minutes in, I did say something else happened. It's interesting to me how concepts and stories and themes get taken and then ran with. So, if you aren't aware, FFG posted that she was at Farm Boy, which is one of Shantel's favorite stores. Certain reaction channels took that and tried to label FFG as a stalker. Remember a couple days ago, I said in this community, things get blown way out of proportion. The first person story usually isn't correct, but everyone is willing to take that and run with it. Wonderful situation happening here. If you didn't watch FFG come back, she addressed it. And she said, listen, I'm grown adult. I can go where I want, when I want, to do what I want. But she did take the extra step to show what she was picking up there was actually pre-ordered in November. So imagine the thought process of simply taking images of someone in a store and presuming that they must be stalking someone else and not being fully aware of what you were projecting when that person had actually ordered that dinner to be picked up a month in advance. Now, what's important about that is for all the things we just spoke about, a month in advance in the end of November, Shantel was continually saying the rhetoric of, I'm not going back to Canada. I can't afford to go to Canada. I would never go back to Canada. I can't leave my home. I'm too unfit to fly. That is what FFG was doing. So at a time where she would actually be putting herself in a position to never see Shantel, believing Shantel was in a completely different country, she was ordering something that later people would claim she was simply using to facilitate possibly stalking her. Does not seem to make a whole lot of sense. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate each and every one of you watching this. I am going to leave you with the top comments from the last video. And you know I'll be back as soon as I can with more commentary.